Hello pretty peoples, KawaJapa no Dolly desu. I am Dolly from KawaJapa. Today we are going to look at the Japanese wa particle. The textbooks actually don't do a very bad job of explaining the wa particle. In fact, they do quite a good one, but they leave out certain vital information, which means that many Japanese sentences become hard for the foreign learner to understand. Let us start off with a joke that is common among foreign Japanese learners. This joke is that "Watashi wa unagi desu" means I am an eel. Actually, when said in a restaurant, what it means is I will have eel to eat. But "Watashi wa Nihonjin desu" means I am a Japanese, doesn't it? So logically, shouldn't "Watashi wa unagi desu" mean I am an eel? I have even seen teachers write that it does in fact mean I am an eel, but by some kind of colloquial contraction, it is understood in the restaurant to mean I will have eel. This is simply not true, and we will explain why. The first thing we need to understand here is something that may come as a surprise to many people. I learned it first of all from J. Rubin Sensei in his book Making Sense of Japanese, What the Textbooks Don't Tell You. This fact is that the wa particle never marks the grammatical subject of a sentence. The grammatical subject, as I have explained before, means the thing that is doing or being something. So, if I say, "Watashi wa Nihonjin desu," I am being Japanese. Now, doesn't the wa particle appear to mark the grammatical subject of a sentence in this case and in many others? The textbooks actually explain the wa particle, which marks the topic, not the subject, of a sentence in this way. They explain it as meaning as for or speaking of. So, "Watashi wa Nihonjin desu" means as for me, I am Japanese. This is precisely correct. So let's just take that sentence in English and break it down. As for me, I am Japanese. What is this subject, the doer of that sentence grammatically? It is I, isn't it? It's not me. In fact, you can't use me in this way. You can't say me am Japanese. That's not correct English. As for me, I am Japanese. The subject is I, not me. Wa works in precisely the same way. It means "Watashi wa" zero pronoun ga Nihonjin desu. We learned about the zero particle last week, and this is precisely why I taught the zero particle before teaching the wa particle, because you can't understand what the wa particle really does until you understand the zero particle. So it might be a good idea, if you haven't watched the zero particle lesson, to go back and watch that before continuing with this one. Alright, so precisely what Rubin Sensei did not mention in his book was this. He said that the wa particle never marks the grammatical subject, the doer or the beer of a sentence. The thing he did not mention is that the reason it does not and cannot mark the doer or the beer of a sentence is because only one particle can ever do that, and that particle is ga. So, where we see wa appearing to mark the subject of a sentence, which it often does, what in fact is happening is that the zero pronoun is inside that sentence, and it is taking the necessary ga, the ga that, as I explained in the first lesson, every single Japanese sentence has to have, because every Japanese sentence must have a ga marked subject, a doer, and the thing done, or the thing that it is. So, let's take another simple example just to make clear how it works. If I say, これはペンです, what I'm saying is, これは0がペンです. As for this, it is a pen. Now, in both these sentences, the 日本人 one and the pen one, the は is actually defining the ga for us. The wa marked noun tells us what the ga marked grammatical subject of the sentence is going to be. But this is not always the case by any means. And a good example of that is 私はうなぎです. What that means is, as for me, it is an eel. 私は0がうなぎです. As for me, it is an eel. And what is it? It is the thing we're talking about. It's the thing I'm going to eat. How do we know that? We know it from context. 3 people are sitting at a restaurant table, and the waiter is standing there with her notebook. So, we know that what we are talking about is what we are going to eat. As for me, it's an eel. 私は0がうなぎです. So, even when the subject of the sentence has not been mentioned, we may still know it from context, and that defines the 0 pronoun. Now, some people may be thinking, isn't that very obscure in Japanese? How is one supposed to know that? Well, no, it's not obscure in Japanese. It's exactly the way it works in English. If you come into my class with a frog, and I look at you and say, take it out, you know what it means in this sentence. It means the frog. You can pretend you don't know, but I wouldn't recommend it. So you see how we can understand the ga marked subject even when it is invisible from context. If I rush up to you in the street and say, 私はうなぎです, then I really am saying that I am an eel. And you probably think there is something wrong with me. But in the context of the restaurant, we know that the ga marked subject is something else. It's the thing we're talking about, the thing we're going to eat. So we see that wa can define the ga marked subject, but it doesn't have to do that. What is it that it's really doing all the time? It is telling what we decide the topic of the sentence is. So we might say, 土曜日は東京に行きます. Or we might say, 東京は土曜日に行きます. Both of those sentences mean the same thing. I'm going to Tokyo on Saturday. But they change the topic, the thing that's actually under discussion. In the first case, we are saying, as for Saturday, what's happening is I'm going to Tokyo. And in the second one, we're saying, as for Tokyo, I'm going there on Saturday. And we can just notice that in neither of these sentences is the ga marked subject visible. It is watashi, or I. And in neither of these sentences does the wa tell us what the ga marked subject is. The ga marked subject is known from context. When we just say going to do something, we know that that's usually going to be me, unless there is some reason to believe it isn't. And now, there is one more thing I would like you to observe about the words on the board. And that is that where we place the wa particle does not affect the logic of the sentence. It affects the stress or emphasis. More exactly, it affects what is the topic of the sentence. But it does not affect the logic. It does not affect who is doing what to whom. It does not affect what is being what. It does not affect what is actually taking place in the sentence. Because that is not the job of wa. That is the job of ga and its associates. This is something else that textbooks do not explain properly, and it will be the subject of our next lesson. Please remember that the course book for this course is Unlocking Japanese. You can get it at Amazon in paperback or Kindle editions. And it will help you to really understand and internalize all the things we are covering in this course. Thank you for attending this lesson. これからもよろしくお願いします. Class dismissed.